It started subtly, as these things often do. A small, black, leather-bound notebook left on the park bench where I ate my lunch. It looked old but well kept. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, opened it, and found the first page filled with neat, precise handwriting. The date was today's date. The entry was a simple list. 8 a.m. Wake up, coffee, black. 8:30 a.m. Leave for work. 12:30 p.m. Lunch in the park, ham and cheese sandwich. Find a black notebook. I laughed. It was a funny coincidence. Someone was playing a prank, maybe dropped it for an unsuspecting person like me to find. The sandwich part was spot on, though. I chuckled, tucked the notebook into my bag, and finished my lunch. That evening, I almost forgot about it. But as I was unpacking my bag, it fell out. I opened it again, flipping to the next page. It was dated for tomorrow. The list was longer this time. It detailed my morning routine with unnerving accuracy, right down to me spilling coffee on my shirt and having to change. It even specified the blue shirt I would change into. Again, I dismissed it. It's just a generic list of morning mishaps. Anyone could have a clumsy morning. I decided to play along, to test the notebook's ridiculous prophecy. I set out my blue shirt before going to bed, a smirk on my face. The next morning, I woke up, and the first thing I did was make coffee. As I reached for the sugar, my elbow knocked the mug. Hot, black coffee splashed across my white shirt. I stood there, frozen, the warm liquid seeping through the fabric. My heart started to beat a little faster. It was just a coincidence, a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I had read it. That had to be it. I cleaned up the mess, stripped off the soaked shirt, and walked to my closet. And there it was, the blue shirt I'd laid out the night before. I put it on, my hands trembling slightly. The notebook was still in my bag. I was starting to feel a knot of dread tighten in my stomach. I got to work, trying to push the notebook out of my mind. But its presence was like a heavy weight in my bag. During a break, I couldn't resist. I pulled it out and turned to the entry for today. The list continued past the morning's events. 10:15 a.m. Argue with Sarah over the quarterly reports. 1 p.m. Skip lunch. Too anxious to eat. 3:45 p.m. Receive an unexpected email from management. Every single detail, every mundane action was laid out in that neat, sterile handwriting. I watched the clock, a growing sense of panic washing over me. At 10:15, on the dot, my coworker Sarah came to my desk, a stack of papers in her hand, her expression stern. The argument happened exactly as the notebook had described. By lunchtime, my stomach was in knots. The idea of food was repulsive. I stayed at my desk, staring at my screen, the words blurring together. I was a puppet, and this notebook was pulling the strings. The fear wasn't about something jumping out at me from the dark. It was a quiet, creeping horror. The horror of knowing. The horror of having no choice. My free will, the very essence of my identity, felt like an illusion, a cruel joke. At 3:45, an email notification pinged. The subject line read, "Urgent, all-staff meeting." My blood ran cold. The notebook didn't just predict events. It knew my internal state, my anxiety, my decisions. That night, I went home and placed the notebook on my kitchen table. I stared at it for hours. I wanted to burn it, to tear it to shreds, to throw it in the river. But a terrifying thought stopped me. What if the notebook already knew I would do that? What if the next page read, 7 p.m., attempt to destroy the notebook, fail? Would trying to defy it simply prove its power? I was trapped in a paradox, a cage made of ink and paper. The fear was suffocating. I was no longer living my life. I was reading a script, and I had no idea who the author was. I decided on a different approach. I would defy it in a small way. I flipped to the next day's entry. It was filled with my usual Saturday routine. 9 a.m., wake up late. 10:30 a.m., go to the grocery store. Buy milk, bread, and eggs. 1 p.m., do laundry. I would not go to the grocery store. I would stay home all day. I would break the pattern. I felt a small surge of hope, a flicker of defiance. I was in control. I had to be. Saturday morning, I woke up at 9, just as it said. I ignored it. I stayed in bed, reading a book. But as the morning wore on, a nagging thought entered my mind. I was out of milk for my coffee. I checked the fridge. No milk. And I was out of bread for toast. A quick check of the pantry confirmed it. And I'd used my last 2 eggs yesterday. A wave of dizziness washed over me. The notebook didn't just write my actions. It seemed to be writing my reality. The circumstances were conspiring to make the entry come true. The need for groceries wasn't a suggestion. It was a necessity that had been orchestrated for me. The dread was now a physical presence, a cold hand gripping my heart. I sat on my couch, the notebook open on the coffee table. The entry for tomorrow was already there, waiting. I was afraid to look. What would it say? Would it describe me calling the police, telling a friend? And would it also describe their disbelief, their dismissal of my story as a paranoid delusion? The notebook had an answer for everything. It had turned my life into a perfectly constructed narrative of despair. The most terrifying part wasn't a monster or a ghost. It was the calm, methodical documentation of my stolen future. I finally mustered the courage to turn the page. The entry for Sunday was simple. It listed a few chores, a phone call to my sister, and then the last entry for the day, written in the same neat script. 10 p.m., read the final entry. My breath hitched. The final entry? I frantically flipped through the rest of the pages. They were all blank. The crisp, empty sheets seemed to mock me. This was it. The story was coming to an end. My story. Was tomorrow my last day? The notebook didn't say I would die. It was more sinister than that. It just ended. What happens when the script runs out? Does life go back to normal? Do I get my free will back? Or does the story simply stop? Does everything just cease? The uncertainty was a torture worse than any prediction. I'm recording this now, reading my own words from a script I found in that notebook. The entry for tonight says, 9 p.m., record a video, explaining everything. Upload it. Hope someone believes you. And so here I am, following the plan. The notebook is on the table next to me. In 1 hour, I'm supposed to read the final entry. I don't know what it will say. I don't know what happens after. But I know this. The worst horror isn't the unknown. It's knowing, with absolute certainty, that you are walking towards an end that has already been written. And you can't do a single thing to stop it.